This is Off the Court with OG, presented by Zenni Blocks. If you've been here before, welcome back to another episode. But if you're new to the show, this is the show or the podcast that features OG King CURT, the GM and head coach of Nets Gaming Crew, the Brooklyn Nets affiliate of the NBA 2K League. Before we officially begin this episode, we want to thank our friends over at Zenni Blocks for being a part of the crew for yet another season of the NBA 2K League. With their limitless inventory of frames, they've been solely responsible for ensuring our guys look great all year long. And more importantly, they've protected the guys' eyes because they do spend a countless amount of hours in front of a screen. What's especially cool about Zenni is that they are genuine, huge supporters of esports just in general. So it's been great to have them as an ally throughout season 5. So do yourselves a favor, visit zenni.com/netsgc, get one of these glasses, and you guys won't regret it. Off the Court, episode 32. CURT, let's do this. Man, there's just so much to unpack and talk about. And the good news is we've got an entirety of an off season to go and pour over every little detail of these past two tournaments and even really just the season in general. But for those who aren't aware, on this episode, walk us through the outcomes of both tournaments, the steal and the ticket, and more importantly, what challenges the team faced against Miami and Charlotte.
Yeah, just starting with the 3v3, came in and had to face a gritty heat check gaming team who had been finding a way to win no matter the mode throughout the season. I think they were also one of the top defenses in the league, and often at times, just like us, maybe struggle here and there to put the ball in the hole. But for the most part, they have always been able to dig out and find a way to win and be competitive in both modes. And so it was a fairly good matchup. We thought that we could get the upper hand on it. We knew it was going to be tough. Obviously, going into the series, we were up 2-1. Had a chance to close it out. They went to famous specialty lineup where they moved Saucy over at the guard, and he had pretty much showed in the series beforehand what he was capable of doing, and we felt like could be a good matchup to be able to negate that. But obviously, we didn't do a great job at doing that. They came back and took 2 games in a row to close out the series 3-2. We didn't really show any type of fluidity on the offensive end to be able to score consistently, but that was always kind of been like our Achilles heel in 3v3, let alone 5v5. But in 3v3, we'd have stretches where we'd struggle to put the ball in the bucket, whether that's missed shots or whether it's turnovers. We just couldn't get it done enough to be able to close out games and close out series. So it's something that definitely going to have to take account for going forward. 3v3 is here to stay. It's one of those modes where you definitely have to control what you can control, because there's so many elements that go on throughout each and every game that you can't control. So just making shots and taking care of the ball have to be key, and getting timely stops when you get a chance. And then when you do get those stops, you take full advantage of it. And those were just some that on a consistent basis we couldn't get done. And ultimately, it ended in defeat for us.
I know it's what's the word I want to use? I'll say like taboo to discuss scrims and some of the intricacies that happen to. We talked about this off air. Like every team in the league has their ups and downs, but something I want to dive into next is that for those who aren't aware, there were like telltale signs or writings on the wall, if you will, regarding the team's struggles headed into this final week of tournaments. Anyone that matched up with Brooklyn can kind of attest to that. Talk to us a little bit about not the results itself of these scrimmages, because that's not what's important, but more about your perspective during these last few scrimmages. How tough was it to watch the team not hit that next gear that they needed? Because at this point, now is not really the time to start figuring things out.
Yeah, I think when you have an inexperienced backcourt and they're trying to figure some things out, and basically, if we're talking just strictly 3v3, everybody is trying to figure this mode out because it's not typically been a mode that a lot of the pro-am players play. So when you put that combination together for us, it can tend to be a disaster at times, and just the consistency that we needed to be successful. It just was something that we couldn't reach. I mean, I think Jaden at times he's just an extreme overthinker. Puts a lot of pressure on himself, which is most players do that, but it can't be to the point where it's working against you. And I think often that happened. And then what a lot of people fail to realize in situations where in the league you have to get on the same page immediately. And for him to come to our team in the middle of the season and trying to get it all together and get on the same page is a more difficult task. And it was something that was just hard to reach. And then when you can't do that, you can't get to that level of trust and understanding that you really need to become a consistent, competitive, and winning team in this league. And that's no matter the mode, whether it's 3v3 or 5v5. So I think that is really, what you got a chance to witness in Indy, prior to our matchups is just we couldn't put it together on a regular basis. And, you start putting together a lot of elements, like I said, inexperience, not really gelling or not, possibly having enough time to gel throughout. And when I say that, it's like you have to understand the difference between playing remote and then playing on the stage, because that does matter. Like, I mean, a lot of people say it doesn't, but it does, because the players who are ready and they're ready to feel that pressure and they ready to play in that environment, in that atmosphere, those are the ones who thrive. And those who aren't, you see it firsthand, and most of the time it doesn't look pretty. When you're playing remote, you don't have the tension or the pressure of somebody yelling at you, or you're playing in front of your peers and sometimes family members and friends and things of that nature. So you throw all of those elements in there, then only the strong is going to survive at the end of the day. And that's kind of what you witnessed with us over that the week of just not being able to close out, not getting off to great starts, and it just was just catastrophic for us at the end of the day.
Well, one last question. I know we had said earlier in the episode, we have the next few months to dive into every single detail from this past season and bring up a various amount of topics. But one thing I wanted to kind of talk about to close off the show, I know, you've done this several times now. It's your fourth season, but now that season 5 has wrapped up, what's, I don't know, one or two things that you've learned after this season? And if there really, if there wasn't something quote unquote learned, then what are some things maybe that you would go back and tell the before season 5 version of you if you could?
I would probably say, be more patient. Probably be more patient with, the younger players that came into the league this year. Especially probably going back to Tate, before the trade. And you know, it's always funny when you think about that, or when somebody asks you that, because hindsight is always 2020. I think I seen a lot of different things. When you make trades, because this was the first year that we can make trades in mid-season, so
Right.
or during the season. So you look at the progress from the player you received, and then the players that you also traded away, and you kind of, you can't help but to kind of look at the production to a certain degree. And I think for us, I don't think I don't think that we pretty much lost any trade that I had or anything like that. I think there wasn't a high level of consistency amongst all the players that had traded. I think they all showed flashes, but none of them showed the superior dominance that you need, and when you're trying to make a run in the postseason. So although I will say I could have probably had more patience, I still look at the end of the day, I guess I want to say for the benefit of our future of this franchise, and being able to even obtain a talent like Jaden, who did show some promise and some good signs here and there, but he came along with a first round pick, not knowing how that first round pick is going to look, but it's still a first round pick. And when you were in a situation like we were, where we were picking nothing but in the 40s, you kind of want to think that that's going to help us going into season 6. And then probably I think just just learning players. This was one of the first times that this is my second season with Shots, and seeing him in a different element. Where obviously our team was a lot different last year, and watching him, fight through some different adversities and things like that. Just trying to help, him become a better player and a better person, and dealing with a lot of different situations and stuff like that. But I think overall it's a continuous learning curve and a grind. I mean, no season is gonna mirror any other season. They all have their own identities
Hmm.
and things that go on, and it puts you in situations where you have to learn a lot of different things about yourself and a lot of different things about the players. And I think this season done that. I think it showed the value and what Steve's brought to NetsGC, with his veteranship and leadership, and you know doing his best to try to will us to be a better team, and things of that nature. So obviously attaining somebody like Streets, who helped catapult our defense, and us actually being um, a team that people actually thinks that plays defense now, considering how we were looked at a year ago. So I think what I'm doing is carving out the positives, to go along with some of the perceived negatives. But I think overall this season it was trying. I think we were competitive. Uh, that would be the team that would describe, that would be the one word of how I would describe this unit. Even before the trade and after the trade, we managed to be competitive. We just couldn't get quite over the hump, and I think just I think the season is going to help shape me a lot going forward. So I think season 6, I think we'll be in a good position. I think I got a good core group now, at least to build around, and I think that's going to help us a lot going forward.
Hey, I mean, Kurt, you don't need to go out of your way to carve out some positives. I mean, for anyone that was really kind of paying attention, Brooklyn was what, 2 wins at most out of finishing, top 5 and making the playoffs in both game modes. I know, it could be looked at it as an excuse, but again, just a couple bounces here and there, and maybe, the team shows up one extra time throughout the year on both game modes, and NetsGC doesn't even have to play in the ticket or the steal. And considering, again, you had mentioned where the team started off preseason 5 with 3 picks, filling out the roster on the back end of the draft. You rolled with the punches and gave it your best shot. And It was close at the end, but I do want to thank you for letting me kind of ride with you throughout season 5. It was a fun ride, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I
Uh,
want to say this, right? Since you mentioned that, is that you know, I think it's unfortunate at times because our league is so young that people don't give you the time to water your flowers from time to time. I mean, because it's a lot to say about any and everything. I mean, I think
mhm.
what a lot of people have to understand is as a GM and a coach, you don't dictate everything about your players and what they do and what they don't do. I mean, and when you've been put in a situation like we were and trying to make the best of it, and like you said, a few games here and there out of making the playoffs in both modes. I've seen teams do a lot worse with more considerable talent. So, but that will always probably get overlooked because people only count whether or not you're winning and how much winning you're doing, but they're not really looking at the situation first, and then looking at the body of work with what you did within that situation. I think that's always key to me when I'm looking at anything, and obviously that's the way I have to look at it from an organizational standpoint for myself to see what type of progress is being made and what type of strides we're making in order to eventually become a beyond competitive and be able to contend for something. Whether that's a banner or whether that's championships. I mean, that's something that's going to constantly be something that we strive for. But you have to take everything as it comes, and that's exactly what we did this past season. And I won't make any excuses, but the proof is there. That's all I will say.
I love it. All right, Kurt. Well, that concludes episode 32 for us. The final, episode of season 5. We'll still be recording this podcast throughout the off season. We're not going anywhere. But to wrap up this specific episode, do you have any final thoughts to leave us with?
No, I just want to give a shout out to Growth Properties. Everybody who works within the organization that helps and oversees NetsGC, they've done a phenomenal job. That's even from full-time employees to part-time employees to interns. Everybody did a phenomenal job in making this season memorable. Regardless of the outcome. I always talk about, and I talked about this with the players, before we departed, is that it's always about the memories for me, beyond the results. I mean, it's about the memories, and I think everybody done a great job in playing a part in helping making this season complete. I want everybody to be on the lookout for the Dear NBA 2K League prospects tweets that I've been putting out. I think it's going to give a lot of prospects, and when I say prospects, I don't just mean players. I mean GM, potential GMs and coaches as well, because everybody thinks they're going to come into this league and do X, Y, Z, and then when ABC happens, it's like, oh, it's not what I thought it was, and so I'm kind of like putting some informational tweets out that definitely can give you something to think about and kind of help shape and mold a player or GM or a coach into what you may encounter when you do happen to make it into the league. So just look out for those, and just look out for all the different content that we'll have coming this off season, whether it be from myself and Kristian or Steve's or different things like that. We got a lot in the fold. So just stay tuned in to NetsGC.
Yeah, 2K League is all year round now here at NetsGC. Remember, everyone, follow Nets Gaming Crew on your favorite social platform. If you enjoyed the show, give it a thumbs up and a subscribe on YouTube. And as Kurt had mentioned, we have a lot of content. We have a lot of things planned over the next few months, and we can't wait for you to see it all. Thank you so much for sticking with us throughout season 5 over the last 5-6 months. It's been a wild roller coaster. On behalf of everyone over at NetsGC, and of course on behalf of Kurt, I'm Kristian Charisma, and this was Off the Court with OG.